Likkutei Behaalotecha, page Lamed. Last word in the first column. Last word of the first column on Lamed Behaalotecha Likkutei. The Alter Rebbe is explaining. The Alter Rebbe is explaining the difference between Aaron HaKohen and Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was Momata Lamaila, going from lower to higher. Like it says, Holach v'nosei Negba. Aaron HaKohen, on the other hand, is to bring down Elokus down here in a way that people should be aware that just like from Hashem's perspective, He exists, world doesn't, because everything is bottled. We should come to that level, to the realization that the only thing that exists in the world is Hashem and nothing else. And that's why Aaron is the same letters as Nira, to appear. So he says, V'ava zu mamish, second column. V'ava zu shebechinas riyazu, this level of Ava, which comes from this sing of Elokus, is called Ava Rabba, Shilamaylam bechinas Ava Selam. Before the Alter Rebbe explained that the love of Avram Avinu came from the meditation into Elokus, so his love is called Avas Olam. Ava that comes from understanding the world, you understand godliness. Aaron HaKohen's Ava is called Ava Rabba. Greater level of Ava that's even greater than Ava Selam, V'ikirves Hashem Mamish, which is the closeness of Hashem. But Mohosi Vatzmusi Kaviocha, into the essence of Hashem, Momaila Lamat. And he says, Vamaskal Yovin, the intellectual person will understand. This is the goal and the longing of the person, the desire of the person. And this is what a person should be drawn after. That it should be the strong, super powerful love of Hashem. This is what the goal of every Jew should be, to have this love of Hashem. And he says, but that what does he want? That the Gilui Elokus should be. In other words, he says like this. What is this Avodah? And he said before, a person should realize how much neshama and godliness is in Golus. Right? So he says, what really should be is down here we should feel the reality, the way Elokus is everything. But darkness covers it and we don't feel it. So this is what bothers the person. What bothers the person? That godliness is not revealed.
Yes, what it should be or what it is?
No, it should be that godliness should be revealed down here the way it is upstairs. But it's not, because of the darkness. And this is what bothers the Jew. Why isn't godliness revealed like it is up there? That's right. Now we can understand. What the Chachamim instituted in the davening of Shmoneh Slach Lanu Avinu Kichotanu Acher Kishma. In other words, in Shmoneh we say Hashem should forgive us for our sins. So he says after Krishma, Shemekabel Olavel Malchus Shemayim Umitzvahs, after we accept in Shema the yoke of heaven and the mitzvahs we are after. He says then we come to the realization. And now we need to be forgiven because we sinned. In other words, the only way you understand that you sinned, if you understand the greatness of what Hashem is and what really should be in the world. And why our actions is making that Hashem cannot be revealed in the world. The fools from their ways of sin, for their sins they are fasting, and they do tshuva because their sins are very, very bad. You know, this is what they accomplished. The godliness is concealed. What does pisham mean? It says like this: avila miderech pisham and avinisayim. Like we say like this in Shmoneh we have chet, Ovein and Pesha. We say Slach lo Navin Kichatanu, B'chalan Malkein Kifashanu. But there's another thing we say in Tachnun a lot of times, that the concept of There's chet, avein, and pesha. Chet is accidental sins. Avein are more negligent sins. Pesha is rebellious sins. Pshia means negligence. When you're supposed to watch something for somebody and you're negligent, that's pshia. Pesha means rebellion. Actually, intention. I know I'm sinning. I know what I'm doing is wrong, and I'm doing it anyway.
Meditate.
Pirush, be al derech mosh mashukos be nishpati. Okay. Be'afal pikein emavila mehem. They are fools from it. Kilo yodu derech pisham, because they don't even know the way of their sins. V'leimi pisham mam elemi derech pisham, from the way of their sins. It's meaning like this. The pasuk says avila miderech pisham, not even for their sins. It means from the way of their sins. Because the path, the journey, causes the rebellion. Why is it? The whole problem over here is when you see a physical king, you tremble for the authority. You're afraid to rebel against the king. He'll just kill you. The truth is, Hashem, like Rabbi Yechman Zaki told the students, you should fear God as much as you fear a human being. So the student said to him, the Gemara in Bracha, so the student said to him, that's it? Shouldn't we fear God more than a human being? He says, Halavai, it should only be that way. When the guy watching you, you're not going to sin. At least pretend Hashem, realize Hashem is standing right in front of you and watching what you're doing. Therefore, like this. In the Krish, when he accepts the yoke of Hashem, and he lengthens the word echad, the realization that only Hashem exists, by days, then he comes to the level of Ahava. And he comes to the level of actually loving Hashem. The darkness doesn't block it. Then he will tremble more. In other words, like we said, the more religious you are, the more tshuva you do on Yom Kippur. It should be the opposite. Religious people should be doing less tshuva than people who are not religious yet. And yet we find that on Yom Kippur, the bigger the tzaddik, the more tshuva he has. It doesn't make sense. But the answer is very simple. The greater the person, the more they realize what terrible thing they did by sin. Because when you understand the greatness of Hashem, and yet to rebel against Him, that's much worse than a person who doesn't understand anything about God or Torah, mitzvahs, or the Shemayim, or anything like that. And then the person will understand. There's the accidental, intentional sins. And that through this the darkness darkens, then he realizes in other words, in simple English, very simple. In order to do tshuva, you need to realize you sinned. If you didn't realize you sinned, you'll never do tshuva. That's why the din in halacha is, for certain doubtful, for intentional sins, you have to bring a korban asham. For doubtful sins, I mean, I don't know if I sinned or not, you have to bring what's called an asham toli, a hanging asham. If you sinned, it's this. And the din was, an asham toli, for a doubtful sin, the korban was more expensive than for a definite sin. So the Mefarshim had why? A definite sin, you for sure. Here's 50-50. The answer is, when a person knows they sinned, then they know they did something wrong. If I'm doubtful, maybe I sinned, maybe I didn't sin, you're not going to do tshuva. Because maybe I didn't sin. Why should I do tshuva? 50-50 is maybe 50% that I didn't sin. So therefore the Torah says we're going to hit you more in the pocketbook. It's going to cost more money. You should do tshuva. The first thing that a person needs to do, it's the same thing, by the way, in medicine. The first olive base of getting cured is to know you're ill. If you don't know you're sick, you don't know what it is. The worst thing in medicine, God forbid somebody's sick, is that diagnosis all comes back clear. Everything is fine. That's worse than knowing at least what's wrong. You know what's wrong, you'll go heal it. In Aveh, it's the same thing. And that's why Slach Lanu can only come after Krishna, after you have the meditation of davening. And you come to the level of your hafta. And Hashem Echad, and you realize that everything is Hashem, then you can begin to realize that you did something wrong.
The thing is, if you know that you've done something wrong, but it's...
Because then you don't feel that you did something wrong. You need to feel that you did something wrong. Knowing is worthless. No.
To feel or to have the concept that you did wrong?
Both. But the ultimate concept is when you feel it. When you feel it, then you really know it.
You feel it, but the sin is tasty or more comfortable not to keep Shabbos.
That's what we said. When you realize that the little sin that you did, enjoyment for 10, 20 minutes, brings godliness covered completely, and instead of becoming from finite creation to infinite creator, you break that, the person, if they really feel it, they wouldn't do it. So he says, by the way, this is the whole Chassidus explained, even the Mefarshim and Moshe say, the first thing a person has to know when it comes to tshuva, that he really taka sinned. And the more you realize what terrible thing you did by sin, then the more tshuva you're going to do. But it's not enough, this embitterment. He says, it's not enough this meditation during Behaalotecha to come to this level. You have to establish times to feel bad. Even though in Tanya, the Rebbe says, not necessarily. Betikken chatzos, in other words, the Chacham institute, therefore you have the midnight, the morning over the Beis HaMikdash. He said, remember seeing the way it was in its glory, shouldn't accord this Malchus Shemayim. So according to this, the Alter Rebbe says, the meditation during davening is not enough. You need to actually have times designated for embitterment session.
For what?
For sinning. And therefore the appropriate time is Tin Chatzos, because then you mourn over the Beis HaMikdash. Then you realize the sins destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, and the terrible things we did by sinning. In the Rebbe's opinion was, don't deal with those issues, only positive. Don't deal with negativity, because when you fight dirt, you get dirty.
You have to prepare for that.
When you fight dirt, you get dirty. So therefore, when you only deal, there's two ways of dealing with medicine. There's one approach in medicine is to deal directly with the illness. Another way in medicine is you strengthen the rest of the body, and then the illness automatically goes away.
Strengthen the immune system. That's the latest trend.
Well, Torah said that about 3,000 years ago. But in addition to that, you see this more in therapeutic type of stuff. That, for instance, in a relationship when there are issues, you could deal with the negativity, or you could deal with the good aspects of the relationship, and when you accentuate, you harp on the positive aspects of the relationship, so then the negativity goes away by itself. So instead of harping, in other words, like we said, I know this is, I'm into this a lot. When people say, okay, from 8 to 9, no Lashon Hara.
1 hour?
1 hour. No Lashon Hara from 8 to 9. They go to sleep. From 8 to 9, no Lashon Hara. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But you know what the problem with that is? Okay, at 7:59, like, let me chaparine another Lashon Hara. At 9:01, do it again. There's a better way of doing it. That's, by the way, Sur Meirah. That's the way of Musar, which is called Sumirah, turn away from evil. But there's another aspect of say Toiv, meaning, what you say is like this: instead of not talking Lashon Hara from 8 to 9, let's say Tilim from 8 to 9. By saying Tilim, you're obviously not going to talk Lashon Hara. But why are you harping on the negativity of no evil? Let's do good. You do good, there's automatically no evil. But you're harping on the good rather than the negativity. And that's, by the way, Asay Toiv, that's what Chassidus is. Chassidus deals with the positivity of the person. In other words, instead of breaking the body, which is looked upon as evil, which is the way of Musar, you have to break the body, you have to fast, and roll naked and antives and get bitten up and all torture. That Baal Shem Tov came along and said, no, don't look at the negativity of the body to break it. Take the positive aspect of the body and use it to serve Hashem.
So why we should memorize the Mishnah or Teilim to say that
The Rebbe says that 20 times in a Yom Yom. You should make that in the street. It's a Gemara. In Pogabach Menuvel Zeh, in Pogabach Menuvel Zeh, Mashchel Beis HaMedrash. In Basel, in Bevon, in Nimeach, in Basel, in his Beitzitz. Meaning like this: if this Yetzirah, in this maneuver, this despicable, the Gemara means simply, if the Yetzirah comes to you, what should you do to get rid of it? Schlep him to the Beis Medrash, meaning go learn something. If it'll be metal, it will melt, stone, it will, whatever, it will disintegrate. So the Rebbe says, what do you mean, Mashchei? It doesn't mean, okay, let's go to yeshiva. It means, you have the Yetzirah coming to you, say a Mishnah, say something. So then the Torah will automatically get rid of the Yetzirah. Because when there's darkness and you bring light in, so darkness gets dispelled. But you're not always next to a sefer. You don't always have sefer. Now we have our phones. You can have whatever you want. So it says when you have it in memory, besides the walking in the street and purifying the air, but that then you at least get rid of the Yetzirah. But that's all through positivity.
Even then it's not that.
Huh?
Even then it's not that.
Nobody says life is easy.
No, because even during tefillah, you read the tefillah in your mind, it's all over the place. It's very hard to focus.
Let me ask you a question. If you would be standing in front of a king, asking him for your life, begging mercy for your life, yeah? Would you start thinking about everything around the world?
No, I don't even have.
What would you do?
Be it the most presentable way. And
Focus.
meditate
You be
over
focused on what to say, how to say it, and say it. What do you think davening is? What are we asking God? Health, wealth, happiness. Give me, give me health. We ask everything in davening. So why shouldn't the person focus? You know what the problem is? It happens 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So
I never see the king. I have to imagine that he's there.
did you wake up today? That means God woke you up, not the alarm clock. Who woke you up? Many people, God forbid, die in their sleep.
The alarm clock.
Some people die in their sleep. Some people die in their sleep. Okay. You woke up, I woke up, he woke up.
Yeah, your wife just
Hello.
Why?
Matthew. God woke you up. The fact that you're able to walk. God forbid, all of a sudden somebody, God forbid, gets a heart attack or stroke. So that's got to appear. What do you think he's going to come out and say, hi, how are you? It doesn't work like that. God's not a person that says, hi, how are you? God reveals himself to us in a much stronger, more powerful way. Our existence is dependent on Hashem. You have food to eat on your table, what do you think that came from? It comes from Hashem. Not only the way it grew and planted and Hashem made it grow, without Hashem it wouldn't grow, but the fact that you have it on your table. The Gemara tells the story, one of the Amiroim of the Gemara, when he had food on the table, he sat down to eat. He davened to Hashem, not thank you for the food. He davened to Hashem, please give me food to eat. The guy, this food's on the table already. What are you asking God? Give me the food. Yeah, your wife gives you the food on the table. You don't say, "Okay, wife, give me food." It's here. You say, "Thank you,"
Right.
because he wanted to show that the whole existence of the food and the whole existence of me eating the food is coming from Hashem. Of course, it's hard. If it'll be easy, it'll be worthless. Okay, and then he says, "V'hinei." Oh no, okay, 1 second. Okay, "V'hinei hageidim l'schar mitzvah." What actually causes the reward of the mitzvah, hi ha-mitzvah ba'atzma, is the mitzvah itself. Meaning, shatei ha-mitzvah sein hamshachas gila lukusa yizbarach lamata. Because what is Torah? The Gemara says, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, schar mitzvah mitzvah, schar aveda aveda. So normally the simple meaning of the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah simply means mitzvah geredes mitzvah. One mitzvah brings another mitzvah. So the reward of a mitzvah is I'll do another mitzvah. So I have $1, I'll make $2. So that's the reward of the mitzvah. Now the Rebbe and Tanya explains, no, schar mitzvah means the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah. What do you mean the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah? People are worried about the Gan Eden. Yeah, how am I going to get the Gan Eden? Chassidus comes along, it's a Mishnah Pirkei Avos. 1 second of tshuva ma'asim tevim in this world is better than the whole Olam Haba. Yeah, what does that mean? When I do a mitzvah, I'm not getting the ray of the Shekhinah. I'm getting the essence of Hashem bound to me. Not Gan Eden, which is only a ray. Who wants Gan Eden? The ray of the Shekhinah, big deal. I can get the essence. What do I need? I have the sun itself. Why do I need the ray? What do I need sunshine for? I have the sun itself. A person does a mitzvah, they connect to the essence of Hashem. There's an expression in Chassidus, Kol ha-mitzvahs misyachsis alo atzmas. All mitzvahs are connected to the essence of Hashem. You do a mitzvah, you're connected to the essence. Which means you don't get another $10, $100, $1 million, or this. You sleep another hour. The reward in the mitzvah is you got the infinite level of Hashem, which is above any other level. And he said, "V'zeu haisad li dimasi lechem yom v'layla, b'mar alai kol hayom hayel kecha." This is my dimasi means my tears. Lechem yom v'layla. When I say kol hayom hayel kecha, meaning shayidei. What's the connection between knowing where God is and all that? He said, "Ba'idei hadima v'aminidas anal." When you have dimasi, dema means tears. Then you merit to get lechem, which is a Torah. He says, through dimasi, through tears, meaning the embitterment of distance from Elokus, then you get lechem yemam v'layla, you get Torah day and night. In other words, in order to connect to Hashem, we need to feel the distance, how far we are away from Hashem. Because when abstinence makes the heart grow fonder, like David Amar, my soul is thirsty, my soul is longing, I want, and this is what the whole inyan of Yohavta, the ultimate love is not when you're with the person. That's one level of love. A stronger love is when you miss the person.
Man, the guy doesn't work in the farm.
Who is that? The workers?
Yeah.
Told me in the lot. She says, he says, we needed a whole day. Because im yosem elav libay rak b'shas tefillah belvad. But if you're only, what does he want? If only you have this at the time of davening, in other words, if a person has this meditation only during davening, yeah, davening is a special time, it's revelation of godliness from above, like he says. But afterwards, you don't have that revelation anymore. So how do you connect? So therefore he said you need this to have designated times during the day to do it.
Asking for the key for the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Take this.
That's why Rabbi people prepare for davening an hour before davening.
That's why you learn Chassidus, because there's a din in Shulchan Aruch that Rama says that before tefillah, a person has to meditate into gadlus hakel v'shiflus ha'adam. A person has to meditate into the greatness of Hashem and the lowness of man. That's exactly what he's talking about here. The lowness of man, meaning how far we are away from Hashem. That causes not depression. Meridus means being embitterment, meaning not that causes depression makes you go to sleep. Bitter is when I'm upset, and therefore that's going to cause me to do more. That's what meridus is. So the fact is, how do you meditate into the greatness of Hashem and the lowness of man? You need Chassidus. That's what Chassidus is all about. The greatness of Hashem and the lowness of man. Not the lowness of the neshama. The lowness of man, the nefesh habamis, the body. But then you create a powerful relationship with Hashem.
Did Hashem give me this tablet
Thank you.
Did Hashem give me the tablet to a cheeseburger, Chas v'shalom?
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you like it or not?
No, he gave me the tablet.
No.
So if he doesn't,
Why did Hashem give you the title?
He gave me the challenge.
Why?
So to overcome it and higher and higher.
At the end of Parak Test, what does Alter Rebbe say? He says two words: "Kamoshel haZeina b'Shalei HaKadosh." Like the Moshel of the Zaina. The king wanted to test the morals of his son, the prince. How did he test it? So he got a Zaina, a prostitute, to try to convince him to sin. The king doesn't want him to sin. The prostitute doesn't want him to sin because she knows it's the prince. But in order to test the ultimate morals of the child, the king had to do that. So the desire says the Yetzer Hara is like the prostitute that Hashem hired to try to get us to sin. Wanting, not the king wants us to sin, not the Yetzer Hara wants us to sin. The Gemara says, Satan, Penina, L'Shem Shemayim Niskavna. They mean it for the sake of Hashem. They don't really want you to sin. The Yetzer Hara really doesn't want us to sin. It's a creation of Hashem. But the Yetzer Hara has Mesiras Nefesh. He says, he does a pretty good job. He says to Hashem, I'm going to try to convince this person to sin. That's what I'm hired to do. But really, I don't want him to sin. I don't want him to listen to me. I don't want the Jew to be foolish enough and stupid enough, to listen to me.
Created it, and he created it strong.
That's why the Rambam's expression, like we learned there, Yitzre Hara Onsai, means the Yetzer Hara is forcing the person to go against what he really wants. It's a remarkable concept what the Rambam says. I mean, the Gemara just says the expression Kaifenei Sachem Reitzad, but the Rambam explains it in the Perek Beis Hilchos Gerish, the famous Rambam, that Yitzre, the Jew wants to do what's right. Yitzre Ra'onsei, the Yetzer Hara is literally forcing the Jew to go against what the Jew really wants. So he says, meditation only during davening is not going to work. Because after davening, there's no more revelation of godliness in you, so you're going to go back to the old routine.
Have a good day.
My kids even doing davening.